culling friends. This sounds awful. And it actually is pretty hard, to be honest. Well, it's been really hard for me because I'm an extrovert. I love people. I have often joked how I like to collect people. So having to cull friends or cull people from my life has been incredibly difficult, and it still is, but it's also really essential because as we get older and we have less energy or less resources, let's say, then we just have to make really wise choices about who we spend our time with. And there was a time for me where, I'm just pouring milk into my tea. There was a time for me where I had so many friends and so many people in my life, and I still have a lot, but so many that I was trying to spend time with every single person, and it meant that nobody got a good amount of me. It was just tiny bits of me to everybody, spreading myself so thin. So it wasn't serving anybody else, let alone then to speak about what it was doing for me. I hadn't even stopped to think about, how do I feel when I spend time with this person or that person? And especially for those of us who've got families as well, and you're working and you don't have a lot of time. So you need to start asking yourself the question, how much time do I have? Do I want to have deep, intimate quality time with people, which is where the real joy and richness of life comes from? Or do I want to just drop in with everybody for 5 seconds? So then you've got to ask yourself some really hard questions as to who do I cull? And, I imagine as some of my friends are watching this thinking, oh, geez, man, has she culled me? Is that why she hasn't called? No, you'd know if I culled you. But you need to ask yourself the question, how do I feel when I'm with this person too? Because this is something that makes it possible to live life fully, or to feel that sense of a rich and fulfilling life. Because if we're spending time with people simply because we feel like we should or we have to, and there are people in our lives like that, sometimes family members can be like that, or work colleagues, and you feel like you should because it's the right thing to do. It's what good girls do, we be nice and we help. But at the end of the day, remembering you only have so many resources and your life is pretty short, we need to spend our time and energy with those who also fill our cup, who light us up. And that's not to say that if you've got a friend that's going through a hard time that you don't want to be there for them. Absolutely not, because giving and loving and being compassionate is also giving to yourself. But you need to ask yourself if the relationship goes two ways. One of the ways that I started to cull people was to see who's reaching out to me. I'm a big reacher-outer, and it's not everybody's forte, but there's only so many times you can reach out to other people, and if they don't reach out back, then that could be a good way to just sort of let go a little bit and leave the ball in their court. And that can be painful and that can be hard, but we have to sometimes grieve relationships, not just lovers and partners, but friendships as well. And that's a really tough thing to do. Grieving is a big part of the process of maturing and transitioning and rites of passage, as we grow older. And again, this is something that I'll talk a bit more in another video. And there's a deep process of transitioning that I have taken myself through, that I take other people through too. And grief is a big part of that. We need to allow ourselves to be able to grieve those relationships. And when we cull, or we start to take stock of who our friends are and who we want to give our time to, it's not a selfish thing. It's about recognizing the truth or the reality of how much resource you have. And then we get to have a deeper, more vertical relationship with people, where we can go deep and really connect and really get a lot out of those relationships and give a lot to those relationships, rather than that horizontal breadth of relationship where there's just lots and lots of people. This is a really hard one for the extroverts like me.